guys.
Hi.
We're Surviving Triplets. Obviously, I'm Dad.
Mom.
And we decided to record a video today, just kind of telling you a little bit about the first few years. Obviously, you've seen from the videos that the boys, they're now 9. So we've got
10.
Yeah, they'll be 10 in December, won't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're wanting to just shoot a video telling you, I guess, a little bit about our experience with raising the boys, and we get asked a lot of questions, especially when we're out and about all kinds of things. Some questions we probably won't put on the video, but
kind of like yeah.
But I'll let you start, babe. With where do you want to start? Obviously, with the pregnancy.
Yeah. That was a wonderful time.
Yes.
I felt like I was living permanently in a hospital bed.
This is true. So you were on bed rest. When did they put you on bed rest?
It was before Thanksgiving because I was terrified because I wasn't going to be able to go to Thanksgiving. And my shower that I had was in October. It was before Halloween.
Right.
So then they had wanted me to start taking easy and be off my feet as much as possible, but they didn't really tell me bed rest until I think it was late October after my shower.
Okay, but let's go back even further than that. When did the morning sickness start? Because you were sick pretty much the whole pregnancy, weren't you?
Well, if you want to go further back than that, we moved.
Oh yeah, we did move during this whole...
We'd moved at the beginning of my pregnancy. And thank goodness for friends, because I wouldn't have been able to do that. Because at first I was very...
Shout out to Miranda if you see this.
I wouldn't have been able to move by myself because he had to still work. But at first it was more, of course, tiredness, the regular feelings for pregnancy. The more sickness started after we moved. And we moved to a small apartment because we did not know at this time that I was pregnant with triplets. So it was a 2-bedroom.
Yeah,
two-bedroom apartment. And so with triplets, we didn't even, of course, realize yet. So we moved and we had problems at that apartment, and
yes,
the carpet was a lovely smell. So that added to the nausea really, really bad. So I think it would have probably been, let's go with 8. I think it was it 8 weeks? 8 weeks, and I started getting really sick.
Yes.
Because, of course, 12 weeks we found out.
Right.
So at 8 weeks I was very, very sick. Could not hardly keep anything down whatsoever. So I thought it was from the carpet that was horribly bad. So he tried to get the apartment complex to change the carpet, thinking that that would help. So I went to stay with my mother, and that was great. She cooked all my favorite foods. So that was a good time. Then after the carpet got changed, came back, same thing. Was nauseated horribly. I was still nauseated at my parents', but there it was worse. I don't know why. Maybe because I had my mom helping me hand over foot. here. And I was actually having to do things for myself. So
it got bad enough though at one point where I remember I would cook breakfast and put them in the fridge, so that way all you had to do was get up and...
Yeah, because as soon as I would get up, the nausea would take over and I would be right in the bathroom. So
she spent a lot of time in bed,
unfortunately. Then we went to the doctor at 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. Before that, though, see, we forget things. We have to go back. At the beginning, when I did find out I was pregnant, we were shocked because I had problems getting pregnant to begin with. Yes. So they did do an ultrasound, and I wanted to say that was maybe 6 weeks?
Yes, maybe, it was at 6 weeks.
Something like that. And then they said, oh, well, there's 2 sacs. And they called it a yolk sac, which I thought was really weird. And she said, oh, well, one of them will probably go away. A lot of women, have 2, and then one goes away. So we didn't think anything about it until later on. So 12 weeks, we went to...
And also, we weren't on any kind of fertility.
No.
Matter of fact, we had been told that the only way we would ever be able to have kids was with fertility, and more than likely, even then, it was a 50-50 shot. So
Right.
At that point, we both decided we were young enough. We weren't going to try fertility at that point. So we basically gave up on trying.
Surprise.
Until we decided to move to another state and both quit our jobs to move. And then voila.
Of course, that's the way it always happens.
Mm-hmm.
So 12 weeks rolled around, and of course, I was very, very sick still. Very, very sick. And so we went to the doctor, and he said, well, let's do an ultrasound since, it was the first time seeing him. And I'll never forget, I'm laying there, and he's like, okay, I see a heartbeat. So we're like, okay, good, a strong heartbeat. Good, that's even better. And then he says, oh, wait. And I was just like, oh no, what's wrong? What happened? Is something wrong? And he's, oh, 2 heartbeats. And I'm like, oh my word, we're gonna have twins? And that's what, of course, it's like, oh, we're gonna have twins. Oh my goodness, because my grandfather is a twin. So I was thinking, oh, that'd be cool. I've always kind of wanted twins. So then he says, well, there's 3 heartbeats, and I see
like,
3
I see
heads.
trips.
I see trips. Oh yeah,
Which,
and then you're
mind you, he's an Indian doctor that has a very thick accent.
Yeah, so it's very.
So it's hard to understand him to begin with, and he's like, yeah, trips. I see trips, and I'm like, what?
What's trips?
And he's like, like 3, and I'm like
3 heartbeats.
I'm like,
3 heads.
no. I was like, you are clearly seeing it wrong.
Yeah, of course, Mike is like...
I argued with him for like 5 minutes about it.
Well, yeah, for a little bit of time. And I was just like laying there like, what's going on? Like,
yeah. Until he panned
finally
back.
He said, here, look. And he panned back, and you could see all 3 heads was the
3
time...
heartbeats.
Yeah, and 3 heartbeats. Mike was just like, okay, there's no denying that, of course. And that's when I decided to start bawling my eyes out. I was excited, I was happy, but at the same time I was terrified, I was scared. So we're walking out of the doctor's, and I remember getting in the van and just sitting in the van and just like started bawling. And I turned to Micah, I can't do this, I can't do 3 babies. There's no way I can do this. Yep. And of course, he was a supportive husband. Yes, you can. We can do this. Like, no, I can't. So that was, I was a shock.
And of course, we called and let our families know.
Right, but what was funny was some people had been kidding at the beginning, like, oh, you're gonna have triplets, you're gonna have twins, because we had talked about the 2 sacs, and they were just like kidding and whatever, because there's twins in my side of the family.
Darren, I still will never let that go.
Yeah. So, oh, you're gonna have triplets, you're gonna have multiples, just, it was kidding. So we tell them, and of course they're just like,
no.
Nuh-uh. I'm like, you guys said it, they wouldn't believe us. And so, of course, I had the proof, the ultrasound. So I showed them the proof. And at this time, though, we were a distance away from our family. Both of our families. Mine was hour halfway, yours was about hour half 2. So we had to call on the phone because we were excited. We wanted to tell. So I think I called, was it my family? Mm-hmm. My mom. I think I called my mom first. And I was all excited. I tell my mom, and of course my dad's at work. And she, of course, couldn't believe it. She was thrilled. She was excited. She was thrilled and excited more than I was, I think, at the time, because I was more in shock and terrified. And she, she was so thrilled. So then I ended up having to call my father, and because he was at work, and he, of course, didn't believe me either at first. No, quit kidding me, quit joking. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. So then he ended up telling my grandfather about it. And of course, like I said, my grandfather was a twin. And he was all excited. And at first he's like, well, I didn't realize, she was going to have a herd, meaning a herd of cows. So that was the funny thing we still laugh about today since my grandpa's passed. So it was a shocker for everybody. His parents were, I think, in shock, as in saying, no, you're not, thought you were kidding as well.
Everybody thought we were joking.
Yeah, so, but then, of course, reality starts setting in, like, we've got to get 3 of this, we've got to get 3 of that, we've got so much to do.
Yeah,
so,
mind you, we had just bought a PT Cruiser.
Yes, we had bought a PT Cruiser, and like I said, we were in that small, tiny apartment, 2-bedroom apartment. So we're like, well, at first we can make it work, for having 3, in their own room. So, but yeah, we just bought that car too.
Yeah, we bought a PT Cruiser. We ended up doing a bunch of work to it. And then we bought 3 car seats. And we went and put them, we bought the smallest car seats we could find that, obviously were safe and whatever. And we put them in the car, and you lacked about that much on either side to get the door shut.
Yeah, you could not shut the doors.
So then we were like, oh, great. So now we're in the market for another car. So we literally drove around to all of the dealerships with 3 car seats.
Yeah, to make sure.
And we would put them in the car seats and try shutting the doors. And you'd be surprised how many cars and SUVs, and we were mostly looking at SUVs at that point because we need something that we could haul a stroller in.
A big stroller. Yeah,
and then also haul the baby seats. And
all their stuff.
Yeah. And very few of them would actually fit 3 car seats, especially all on one seat together. So we did finally find one, a Buick Rendezvous.
Yeah. It was a good car until it decided to on us, but that's another story.
At least that was years down the road, so that was like 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good vehicle for what we needed it for at the time.
Yeah. Thankfully.
But okay, so after we got the car seats, and then we had our baby showers.
We had one baby shower before.
Yes.
Because your mom wanted to do an open house after.
That's right.
So everyone could
right.
see the babies.
Yeah.
So we had the one shower before in October. And my mom and my sisters did that for me. It was great. I felt bad for everybody that had to buy all this stuff for 3 children. It was...
You feel bad asking at a baby shower for one gift.
Yeah, let alone 3.
Let alone when they have to now. If they buy you an outfit, they buy 3 of them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also, didn't a lot of people bring diapers and stuff too for the?
Yes, there was diapers, quite a bit of diapers.
Because I remember we had like a big pile of them out in the garage.
We did.
I thought that that was gonna last us like months.
No.
Until.
No, of course not.
It actually happened, and
Didn't
then
realize. So, but then at that shower, we still hadn't bought a stroller or anything. So we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. And I had looked online, and
triplet strollers are expensive.
They are so expensive. And I had found this really unique stroller, and I'd not seen it before. And I don't know if it was a multiple mother that made them with her husband. I don't know, or came up with it. But it was just... like,
go to tripledecker.com if you want to check it out.
Yeah, I don't know if they're still in business or not. They
make like double deckers, triple deckers, but it's basically a frame.
Yeah, it's a frame, and then
and it has storage underneath, and the pumpkin seats actually latch on there.
Right, to the
onto the frame, and then you can also take it once you put them in the car onto the bases. You can fold it down, and it'll fit in the trunk of a car.
Right, and then once they get older, they have like little seats that go on it, like a bicycle seat.
It's like the little kid bicycle seats that go on the back of a bicycle.
They have the back on it and everything. That was for when they got older, which was really nice because then it kind of graduated with the boys, so we could still take it out. And so anyway, I looked into that, and in my shower, Brenda, shout out, she bought me the stroller. And of course, I bawled like no else, and was so thrilled.
Never know how much that meant.
Yes, so thankful to her for getting that for us. She gave me a little picture with a little note on it and said it was on its way. And you'll never know how much that meant to us. And it helped with my boys for months up into a year.
Well, even they were in it up until probably almost 2 to 3 years old. So we kept them in the stroller.
Yeah, so. It meant so much, and I was in shock that she had gotten that for us. So after shower, it was into, of course, the end of October by then, and so then that's when they said, well, we want you to be put on bed rest because you're getting further along. And then by this time, I had still had sickness, nausea. the whole entire time. Morning, noon, night, all day long. So they end up having to give me...
Was it Zofran or something?
I think so. It's the pill that dissolves in your mouth and...
Yeah, the anti-nausea medicine.
Yes, they had given me that, and I still had thrown up with that several times, and so they were getting concerned about that. So they wanted me on bed rest. Then it was into November.
It was the early part of November when
I started.
You started into labor.
Yeah, but see, I didn't realize because it was my first pregnancy. I did not realize.
She calls me at work and like, yeah, my belly hurts a little bit.
Yeah, it did. And I'm thinking, oh, it's just gas or something else. It's not, you know.
She's like, I'm going to go there. They're going to tell me I have indigestion.
Yeah, and that's going to be real embarrassing. So, so we decided to go to the hospital. I'm not sure if you called the doctor. Yeah. Well, because I didn't want to look like an idiot going in with indigestion. So we get there and they're like, oh, yeah, you're having contractions. Oh, great.
Yeah, at that point, they were less than 5 minutes apart.
Yeah. So they're of course, it's a small hospital where my doctor was affiliated with.
What, 25 weeks along, I think at that point you were?
Probably something like that.
You were right around 25 weeks, I think.
Yeah. So they're like, we need to send you to a bigger hospital because we're not.
They weren't equipped for it.
No.
They literally had... I think one baby monitor, and then they had a couple handheld ones, like where you could hear the heartbeats.
Yeah.
So they're like, so they would come in and they would, they'd put the one on there that they had, and then the two nurses would be standing there holding the other
trying
ones.
To find the other two.
It really wasn't. They were not set up for multiples.
No, they were not. So they said, well, we're going to send you to a bigger hospital. That way, hopefully they can figure out what's going on and help you to stop labor. So that ambulance ride was the worst thing.
Yeah.
Ever.
Looking back, I wish you'd have just rode in the vehicle with me.
Pretty much.
It probably would have been more enjoyable for you.
Yeah, they put me on my side, which was very uncomfortable on this gurney, you would call it, in a bouncing ambulance down the interstate. Was not comfortable. Apparently my blood pressure started going down.
Well, they had you on a magnesium drip trying to stop the labor, which then apparently affected your blood pressure levels or something.
So it started dropping. So they asked me if they could give me a shot, which they said, we need to give you a shot. I don't know if they asked me, but they said we need to give you a shot. I'm like, okay. At that point, I was starting to get dizzy, which obviously I'm riding in an ambulance that's bouncing everywhere, so I'm already getting dizzy, but it started getting really dizzy, so that's when they gave me the shot, and then that helped, and they're like, well, we're almost there. I'm like, thank goodness, because this is the worst ride ever. We get there, they, of course, give me more magnesium and more medicine to stop my labor, and I stayed there for 2 weeks.
It was like 20 days or something like that you were in there. Because they didn't want to release you to go home.
No.
At that point, we honestly thought that you were going to end up being in there until you had the boys.
Yeah.
They weren't planning on sending you home.
I was just like, oh no, please no.
Of course, then Thanksgiving rolls around.
Yeah. And almost the Thanksgiving. And I'm just like, please let me leave.
She was begging and pleading with them.
I don't want to spend my Thanksgiving in a hospital. Please, let me leave. And they're like, well, you're just... I was still having small contractions, nothing big or anything, but it wasn't like I was dilating and going into full-blown labor or anything. I was just having contractions at that point. So they said, okay, just, of course, bed rest, take it easy. We'll see you for, a checkup in, I think it was a week.
So, of course, she went home and did nothing, right?
No. I went to be with my family an hour and a half away. Which I still do not regret, by the way. I do not regret that. Even though I was still having contractions the whole way, I do not regret doing that. But it was a very uncomfortable ride, but it was worth it. So, did go there, came home, was thankful to be home. Then I went a couple days, I think it was like a week later when I went to...
Yeah, we had another doctor's appointment.
And that's when they were doing, because of course they do ultrasounds weekly because you're high risk. So I'm laying there and they're like, well, at this point, we see, was it lack of,
it was low,
slow,
it was low diastolic flow through the umbilical cord to
Right.
baby A,
to baby A,
which
was
is now Logan.
Yeah.
So at that point,
They were very concerned at that point.
So they were like, well, we need to keep an eye on this. So they admitted her immediately.
Right. Like, oh, here we go again.
Which is perfect because we thought we were going to a doctor's appointment. We didn't bring any of the clothes with us. Nothing, and boom, she's right back in the hospital again. So
I was in there for a couple of days because I was concerned because, of course, I could feel where every baby was and where the movements were. With Logan, baby A, he was not moving, so that was, of course, freaking me out. And I kept telling the doctors he's not moving, so they would bang on my stomach when they, would do the ultrasounds, because the ultrasounds were, I swear, every 2-3 hours.
They were doing them, multiple times a day.
So they were pressing, and he still wasn't moving. They said, well, it's his sleep cycle. So I'm like, how can it be his sleep cycle, like, every hour on, like, every 2 to 3 hours? That's weird. So we got into 48 hours, and he's still not moving, and his parents came to.
And a side note to anybody that's going through anything like this, whether it's with a singleton or with multiples or anything like that, trust your instincts. Mother's instincts are way more powerful than what you realize. She kept telling us over and over and over again, there's something wrong, there's something wrong. I mean, she was literally bawling in the room. There's something wrong with him. I haven't felt him. Of course, the doctors are, it's probably this, it's probably that. And she would not let it go. And I'm glad she didn't.
But it got into 48
Also,
hours.
at the same time, don't just take the doctors and what they have to say. I mean, obviously, doctors know a lot, but at the same time, trust instincts, because most of the time they're correct.
Yeah. So I think it was into 48, or was it almost the 72 when your mom came?
It was about probably 70 hours when Mom finally came.
And that's when I finally just let go and was bawling and telling her something's terribly wrong.
And my mom is a registered nurse, and she actually pulled all the doctors into the room. And I'm forever grateful that she did what she did. But she pulled them all into the room and said, what's the plan here?
Why haven't we done it?
And why haven't we done this surgery? Because obviously they were wanting us to try to get to 34 weeks. That was the magic number.
And I was at that time.
We were at 30 weeks and 2 days.
Yes. Of course, the NICU there is wonderful. Shout out to the NICU there.
The NICU was awesome.
Yeah. And they had babies in there that were 28 weeks to 26 weeks that, were doing well, and they were thriving. And, like they said, if you can get past the 28 weeks, that's great. But if not,
Yeah, there was even one baby, I believe, that was like 25 weeks. It weighed like a little over a pound when it was born, and was still in there, but doing fine. So it's amazing the technology that they have now.
I was. But
when Mom pulled them in there and basically asked them, what's the deal, and we were kind of getting the sense that the doctors were willing to sacrifice the life of the one baby because basically for the good of the other two. And to us that wasn't an option. And my mother made that very clear to them that was not an option. And within, I would say, probably an hour after that?
Yeah, I hadn't, by the way, just a tidbit, I hadn't ate in over 48 hours at this point because they didn't know what they were doing.
They kept holding off.
Back and forth, what to do. So I was starving by this point. Sorry, continue.
So within the hour, we were in the operating room. Another funny thing is we had so many specialists. We had probably 3 different doctors that we were going to see up until then. So you had your normal.
But I didn't have my original doctor because he was gone. He was on vacation.
See, your normal doctor. Then we had these specialists that we were seeing and everything else. When it came time to deliver, not a single one of them showed up. We were delivered by the house doctors, which they did an amazing job. I couldn't ask for a better team of people, but it just kind of cracked me up that all these people, they collected this money from us all this time, and then when it was time for it to happen, they called them. They called every one of them, and not a single one showed. So,
but still, we had in there how many nurses?
Yeah. So let's talk about the birth. Of course, obviously with triplets, the natural birth is not an option. They pretty much told us from day one it will be C-section.
Right.
It will be planned, that kind of thing. Obviously, due to Logan's issues that he was having, it got basically scheduled that way. But
which is good.
Right. It's a room full of people. Let's just put it that way. So you know, obviously she's laying there. You have the anesthesiologist, and then you have.
Another
and
nurse
of course,
next
I was sitting right there at the head as well.
Yeah,
of course,
he was over here. She was right here. You were right next to the other nurse. So
right.
She's watching and talking to me.
And then there was probably, I'd say probably 4 people around you. And then waiting off, they have multiple rooms off the OR there for the NICU nurses and the doctors. So every kid coming out had a team of doctors and team of nurses standing by waiting on the baby.
Right,
so
to intubate if needed or whatever.
Yeah, so you're talking well over 20 people in the operating room. It was crazy. Yep. But they did a fantastic job. It was interesting, though, sitting there talking to her, because obviously she's awake and talking to me and whatever. And, you know, when you see them cut, normal incisions, are real small. Obviously, they cut her from one side to the other. And then they have to use this,
it looked like he said, the jaws of life.
It looks like a crowbar with a huge paddle on it, like that they have to slide up underneath her and pry her stomach up over the top. Because I mean, you got to think it was a very large stomach. That.
Oh, gee, thanks.
Well.
No.
So to get the skin up over so they could gain access was. It was interesting to watch. And of course, I'm sitting here watching it, and hey babe, how you feeling?
I just felt lots of pressure because, of course, I had a spinal block, so from here down was all numb.
Right.
But I was terrified, but at the same time, I was excited to finally see them and praying that they were okay.
That was. We were really worried about Logan.
Yeah. And then he was the first one, of course, born.
Yes.
Because we were most worried about him. But he is the one that did the best.
Yeah, which is, we found this out afterwards after talking to the doctors and whatever. But the body is truly amazing how it works. And with them, they had given them a shot to try to help their lungs out.
I was around Thanksgiving.
That was around Thanksgiving because they figured they would be born early.
Then.
And so they gave them a shot to help them develop their lungs and be able to breathe.
But they said, we're not sure which baby got the most of what.
Yes,
because that
exactly.
Was, yeah.
But when Logan came out, he came out screaming, which was a relief because he hadn't been moving at all. He actually was the only one who. They put him on oxygen temporarily just to make sure, but he actually came out breathing room air and was fine. He was off it the next day, and never was on anything else.
But like the doctors had said, the reason why he did so well is because he was in stress in the womb.
And they said that when they're in stress, the body secretes some kind of I forget what it's called. I used to know what it was called, but anyway,
our brains are gone now.
It basically helps the lungs develop,
right?
Because they know that they're in stress, they're going to be born.
Yeah.
So they think that him being in stress actually helped him out in that way.
Right. But yeah, I jumped to that when we were talking about what I was feeling at that time.
Right. Sorry.
No, I jumped to it. It was me. So, but yeah, I felt lots of pressure, like we said. But the one thing was when they took Dane out, which he was the top, and he was, of course, alone in his own sack.
Yeah, so we had identical twins.
Yes.
So the 2 in 1 sack.
And
then a fraternal triplet. So Dane was in his own sack.
So that's the one I felt the most pressure and felt like I was having a heart attack, honestly. Because they were trying to press down and pull, because from what they said, he was hanging on. So I don't know if he was hanging on to my ribs. I don't know what it was, but they said he was hanging on. He was fine. He was alone. He was getting all the nutrition he needed. He didn't need to come out.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm holding out for dear life. I'm not ready to go yet. So that was the one I felt the most pressure on. It was higher up too, so I felt like I was having a heart attack at that point, and I started saying, "Oh, this pressure."
Jason
but yeah, they all came out, and each of them were crying. So they lifted them up to where you could see them a little bit before they had to rush off and intubate them.
Yeah, literally like 2 seconds.
Logan.
Here's the baby. Boom. We're gone.
I remember with Logan's, I was so extremely excited that I heard him crying and screaming. And then with Jason's, it was so funny because the one nurse doctor, she was just like, "Oh," she said, "Oh," and I was just like, "Oh no, what happened?" And she come back and told me after like a few seconds or whatever, because she was busy trying to dang it out. She said, "He bit me," and I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, I was suctioning him out." She said, "He bit my finger." And I looked at Micah later on, or maybe at that time, and I said, "Well, probably so. He's probably starving. I haven't ate for almost, 40-some, 50 to 60 hours, so he's starving too. So he's hungry." So then they moved on to Dane. He came out crying too. So just to hear them all cry made it
a relief.
Yeah, so much of a relief that we knew, oh my goodness, they're all going to be better than what we expected anyway. So then continuation on of how much blood was taken out of me. I ended up having a transfusion later on.
A lot.
A lot. It was quite a bit. And so then of course...
We weighed you before you went down. And then we weighed you when you got back from surgery. And during there, you lost, 38 or something like that pounds?
Yeah, pounds, something like that.
So you figure, and
because there's fluid in each one, the stats.
So the babies were, Logan was the smallest, which he had obviously been having nutritional issues and whatever.
Right.
He was 2 pounds 8 ounces. So he would have been baby A. Baby B was Jason, and he was 3 pounds 2 ounces, which would have been baby B. He was the other identical twin.
Right.
And then Dane, obviously he was in his own sack. He was 3 pounds 7 ounces. So they were all tiny.
Yeah, itty bitty.
They were, even though they were fairly long. I think they were 19 inches long, something like that. So
gotta be really tall and be looking up at them.
Exactly. But yeah, it was. You figure, okay, so a lot of it wasn't baby weight that she lost. A lot of it was fluid and blood and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, they had like the canisters of them over there,
Yeah, those big, tall canisters. Yeah.
It was disgusting to look at.
She filled up multiple ones.
Yeah, there were several of them I filled up, so that was lovely. But and then they end up, of course, stitching me up and all that process. So in the meantime, after I was stitched up and everything, and I was in the recovery part, he went down, and I left it up to him to name the babies. We already knew the one by himself was going to be Dane, but the twins, identical, we didn't know who was who, which was going to be Logan, which was going to be Jason. So I let him go down and look and see and name which one while I was in recovery. So recovery wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be right after. I thought I was going to puke and vomit everywhere and just be a mess. But my mom, was giving me ice chips and things like that, which, are helping because, of course, I'm still starving, hungry. So I guess there really wouldn't be anything to vomit except for the fluids or whatever. And then after that, they put me on a bed. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And he was still down in the NICU, I think. I didn't think you came back up, did you?
I did.
Oh, you did come back up. So they asked if I wanted to go see the babies, of course. I said yes. So they wheeled me on a bed through so I could see them as I went through. And I think I got my hand in the isolettes to touch every single one of them. And I felt like when I was going to touch them, like I was covering the whole child because they were so tiny.
They literally would fit like in your hand.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking like they were tiny.
Right. We can put pictures of that in this video too.
We'll have to put some pictures.
So, I wanted to touch them, and they said firm but not too firm, and don't like tickle because it would bother them. So firm touch on them, and then he told me the first one was baby A would have been Logan, and then baby B Jason, and of course Dane would be C. So that was awesome of them to wheel me through in the bed so I could see them and touch them, and of course they had us in a bigger room because they weren't.
So we got the suite.
Yeah.
So
it was like 2 rooms, but
they had a curtain that could pull between the 2 rooms.
So we had like 2 rooms for all 3 of them, pretty much.
We even had our own fridge and all that good stuff in there.
So we ended up, of course, going to bed that night, and then the next day finally getting to come down and hold them.
So something that's interesting about the NICU, every time you go in, and it wasn't just when you come in and out of the NICU. Obviously, you had to do a 2-minute wash. The 2-minute wash included washing your hands from fingertips all the way up to past your elbow. Every time you came in and out. Yeah. But we also had to do the 2-minute wash in between each time we touched one of the kids. Right. Because they were so susceptible to germs and whatever. They weren't even supposed to be born for another, you figure, 10 weeks.
10 weeks, yeah.
So germs was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the isolate protects them some, but you putting your hands in there is going to possibly, contaminate them or whatever.
So everybody in and out had to do this wash.
So, yeah, I remember... Was it the next day that everybody came?
I think it was the next day, or if not the day after. But I want to say it was the next day because I couldn't go down for a while. They were doing. I think it was when I was so dizzy and stuff. They knew that I had to have a transfusion or something, but I couldn't make it down till later that day.
Yes.
This is going to be a dumb question on here, but I don't think that we could really necessarily hold them at first. Am I correct?
No, we weren't. Okay. We weren't able to hold them at first.
You could touch them.
Yeah, we were able to touch, and we helped do diaper changes and things like that. I can't remember hardly anything
from the first year. Just throwing that out there. I ended up coming down. I think it was later that evening, and I think my family was there. Your brother, my sisters, my parents. Your parents. So there had been quite a bit of traffic in that day.
And there were several friends that came. Right. I ended up making...
you made several trips, but I
made about 15 trips down to the NICU that day. And, of course, every one of them with the 2-minute wash. And then in between each time we touched kids, doing it again.
Really dry.
My hands were cracked. They were just... It was painful.
And then, of course, we had... I forgot to mention that. We did have numbers for each one of the boys on our wrists.
So you had 3 separate bracelets.
Yeah. And the parents had to take people in.
Yeah, so we had to scan in and out. So yeah, it was super tight security there.
Right.
It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I ended up coming down that evening, and I wanted to come in and touch the boys and whatever. And I remember a nurse, and I was not too happy with this nurse because she told me I could not touch the boys, and I hadn't been able to be down there all day. And I don't think she realized that. I think she came in on her shift, which is understandable, and she's looking out for the boys, which I totally get. But I was upset because I couldn't touch my boys that day, but there had been a lot of traffic in, and she knew that, and she was looking out for the boys by saying, "Oh, no more touching," because it hinders them when they're touched so much. It puts a stress on them. So I'm just like, I can't touch my boys, and so I started crying. And
I went to the charge nurse.
Yeah, he did. And he talked to her, and she said, that's fine, just for a little bit, and which I understood. On one hand, I'm just like, I want to touch them, and then I'm like, but they've already been under so much stress. I don't want to hurt them, you know. So I ended up doing it, but I didn't do it much. I think it was more of just like their hand at one point. So,
but it was important for you to have that skin to skin.
It was very important to have skin to skin with them. We actually had, and I still have those dolls. They had little material dolls that they given to me, and I had them on my chest. They wanted me to sleep with them overnight the night before, and then they put those in with the boys to have my scent on them in their isolettes, so they could smell mom, and you know, more like a comfort for them. So the skin to skin though after was very crucial too and very important. So I was thankful to touch them a little bit, but at the same time I was still like upset that like, why can't I touch my babies, you know? But I understood because there had been a lot of, you know, traffic after the fact. At the point then I was very emotional, of course, and just having them, and I wanted to touch my kids. So
after that though, there wasn't a whole lot of traffic.
No, there wasn't. It was just at first, of course, triplets, you know, and seeing them and all that. So yeah, the days after that, after the newness kind of wore off and all that, of course the boys were in the NICU for 2 of them were in there for 30 days, I believe it was, and one was in there for 31 days. Logan wasn't able to quite make it the weight to get out in time. But he ended up gaining 2-3 pounds in like a day, day and a half, to where he could leave.
Yeah, so
they said that they do that though too. If one sibling leaves, like when they've had twins and triplets before, the other gains an excessive amount of weight really quick.
Like, get me out of here.
Like they're like, I know my brothers or my sisters just left. You know, I gotta catch up.
Right. So yeah, we were there for. Well,
I was in the hospital
pretty much every day.
Right, I was in the hospital though for a week. I want to say after, because of my blood transfusion.
It was almost 2 weeks that you were in.
Okay, it was almost 2 weeks.
Of that.
And then shout out to the Ronald McDonald House.
Yes.
We stayed.
Super
there.
Important charity, and
yes.
We've actually used the Ronald McDonald House a couple different times.
Yes.
Which we'll probably get into that in another video.
Yes.
But that is such a godsend when you have kids in the hospital and
right, they make food. It's right there in the fridge. You don't have to do anything, and you have a bed and washer, dryer. It's all right there.
Yes, it was amazing.
It was great. So we ended up staying there while the boys, of course, were in
and
the
mind you, it
hospital.
was around the holiday time. Okay, so after. Do you want to jump ahead now?
No, because we had them December 6th. That was towards the holiday time.
Right. Oh, yeah, we got to talk about Santa Claus coming to the NICU.
Yes.
So, we find out that Santa is coming. Oh, my word, it's Santa! No. So, we find out Santa's coming to the NICU.
Santa got in trouble.
And, yeah, Santa did get in trouble.
That's what I was remembering. Santa got in trouble.
So, apparently they obviously have Santa come in and come around to the different rooms. Poor Santa has to do the 2-minute wash as well.
He didn't.
Santa got in trouble.
Yeah, he came in and started for the isolettes, and I was like, wait, did he wash his hands? I asked Micah, did he wash his hands? And he's like, I don't know, I didn't pay attention or see. And I was like, I don't think he did. And apparently one of the other nurses there caught it. And he goes to go over to the isolette, and he opens it, and she's like, Santa, did you do the wash? And he's like stopped, and he's like, oh no, I gotta go do my wash. So yeah, he got in trouble. So we had Micah went to it was
PetSmart.
Was it PetSmart?
It was PetSmart.
I don't know why he went there, because
I
to go get hats. Why would you go to PetSmart?
Well.
What other stores did you go to?
I tried Walmart, and I think I tried Meijer.
So you actually did try other stores.
I did try other stores, yeah. And
okay, that's much better.
And so then I was thinking, well, I know I've seen like the little dog hats like that they wear. And so I went to PetSmart.
Yes.
And I found these little Santa Claus hats.
Yes. Here's the little Santa hat.
And of course, with it being a dog toy, if they actually bite on it, it might, yeah. Hey, this still work.
Yeah,
those are good batteries.
Almost 10 years later. So yeah, they were a dog's hat.
Yes.
For a Santa hat.
But they fit the boys perfectly. They
Yeah,
had tiny little heads, and so actually they were kind of big on them, actually.
Yeah, they were.
But so we put the hats on them.
Yeah, and then we took a picture with Santa, and
so what we didn't realize
was the newspaper.
The newspaper was going to be there.
And it was a big newspaper that was going to be there. We did not realize this. And they, of course, were covering Santa being, at the NICU. So they wanted to do a story because it's triplets, Christmas time. So I sat down with them and talked to them, and so did Micah. And we talked for a little while with them. And, of course, we took pictures with Santa and the babies. Santa held one, Mike and I held the other with their hats and everything. And so after the fact, someone, I don't even know who told us, but we found out that we made the front page of this big newspaper.
No, they told us to check for the article. It would be in tomorrow's paper.
Check for the article.
And I stopped by.
So we were going to get it because we thought, we were going to be in there, talking about the triplets.
Yeah, so I stopped by the gas station the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, at that point we were staying in the Ronald McDonald House.
Mm-hmm.
So the way our, pretty much our day would go would be, we'd stay at the NICU until about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And then we would go back to the Ronald McDonald House, and then we would get up the next day.
You bring me.
Yeah, and at that point, of course, I was still having to try to go into work some and also do all that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would drop her off at the NICU at like 6 in the morning, and then I would go to work. And then once I got off of work, I'd come back there. We would stay there till 11.
Right.
Go back to the Ronald McDonald House, get up the next day and do it all over again.
So anyway, you went
So I went to the gas station, and there we are, front page of the newspaper.
Yeah, big newspaper too.
So then we were like,
shocking and so exciting.
Yeah, so I bought all their newspapers.
I would have too. And he brings me out to the car. He's like, "We made the front page." I said,
and I didn't even break any laws.
Yeah, we didn't break any laws down there. So I was like, "No, we did." He's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "We sure did." So that was shocking and exciting, and of course we're telling like, "We made the paper, the front page," and so then they're like, "Oh, we want a paper, we want a paper." So it was like buying all these newspapers from different places.
Good news is I had plenty to go around.
So that was really neat. So we were on the front page with Santa. So that was really cool too. But at Christmas, we ended up buying a little tree.
Weren't allowed to have a tree in the NICU.
No, we weren't allowed to have a Christmas tree.
So we got this little miniature one.
It was a Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, it was a Mickey Mouse Christmas tree.
Yeah, it was cute.
And it sang songs.
It was really cute, and it played different showed different colors of lights on the little tree, and we had to ask. It was not that big, but they're like, "Well, yeah, I guess that's okay as long as you put it over there out of the way." Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, "Well, thankfully." So then I went and they were like tiny miniature stockings. They were really little, and I don't know why, but from the beginning, we of course color coordinated the boys.
It is possible to program your kids what their favorite color is, just in case you wanted to know.
So I got this idea in my head because when they first got in there, each one of the nurses made a little name tag, and they were really cute, and they had their name and the collar and snowflakes, and it was really, really cute. So they had each for one of the boys their names on it, and I got looking at them and the names, and I looked later that's not color coordinated to what they were.
No.
I sat there because I think Logan was like blue or something, or something anyway. So I just saw the three colors. It was red, blue, and green. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, The nurses at the first night, and I'm not sure who it was. I don't know if it was Nikki. I don't know. Who was the one?
Amy.
It might have been Amy. Amy or Nikki. They named the boys. They gave them little nicknames.
I think it was Nikki.
Maybe it was Nikki. And so Logan was squirmy because they had almost like a little nest for them in there, and they had a strap. They had a strap across his back that was Velcroed. It was like a swaddle. He would manage to get all the way out of that to the bottom of his isolette by himself.
He would crawl around in there.
And he was an active.
Wiggling around.
He still doesn't sit still. So he still doesn't. So squirmy. So I'm like, he's squirmy. And I just kept thinking in my head, like, he's going to be, you know, fiery. He's, you know, strong. So I thought of red. And so I was like, we'll just do red for Logan. It just got in my mind. It's because for family members, like, still now, oh, you dressed them all alike? Like, we can't tell who's who. So, like, well, this would be a unique idea to put them in these different colors so people could see, you know, that they're
Little do you know that
all
the
different.
reason why they dress multiples all the same is because it's funny to watch people try to figure out.
Are you? So
Yes.
so?
I promise you that's the reason why parents of multiples do that. It's because the people that don't know them very well have a hard time telling them apart.
So Logan was squirmy, like I said, and I'm shaking the whole table. And so red, I just thought fire engine, you know, strong. So we're going to go with red. Jason, they called him Sleepy because he slept a lot, which was good.
He was like the perfect kid.
Yeah, he just kept sleeping away. Like, it was hard to wake up. So, you know, they called him Sleepy. So I thought, I don't know why, moody, blue, you know,
Just kind of
relaxing, mellow out. So I went with blue for Jason. Dane, poor Daney. He was stinky. That's what they called him, was stinky. Because, like they said, they would open the isolate doors and there's, like, rolling, like, you know, in the cartoons where you roll, like, green smoke from the smell, you know? I'm thinking green smoke, you know, coming out of stinky isolate. So I went with green for Dane.
Our
Kids are going to hate us if they know the reason why.
And what we didn't realize at first was Dane was actually lactose intolerant.
Right, he had a milk allergy. So
and so
that's why
he had terrible gas. And that's how he got the name. But
so,
that was the reason why his stomach was tore up so bad all the time.
So that's why I went with green for him. So we had the red, blue, and green. So now to this day, their favorite colors are red, blue, and green.
You hand them a something red, blue, and something green, and they will pass it out to who it belongs to.
Yeah, they think that's their favorite color now. And I guess that's our fault. I didn't really mean for that to happen. That was just
a little social experiment there.
Right, that was just like a color coordinated thing that I did. So anyway, I don't even know why I got off onto that I was talking about that around Christmas time. I don't even remember.
I don't know.
I don't know either, because I was talking about the Mickey Mouse tree.
Oh, they're stockings.
Oh, yes. Thank you. So I got a green, a red, and a blue. And then I put those on the end of their beds with a little TY Beanie Baby puppy in each one of them. Different kind of animal.
Which they still have.
Puppy. Yes, they do still have them. So that was what I got them for their first Christmas. And thank you for bringing me back to what I was talking about before. So, yes, I color coordinated them from them beginning at the NICU. So, our first Christmas, we did go to see family, which that broke me up. I bawled the whole entire time.
That was the hardest thing ever.
Because that was the first day I had left the NICU. I had been there every single day.
Yes.
And especially on Christmas, I'm like, should I stay there all day? And, you know, the nurses are saying, well, you know, they know when you're here, but, you know, what are you going to do? You know, there's not a whole lot you can sit there do other than sit with them. And I had, like I said, been with them every single day since they had been in there since December the 6th. So, yeah, we went and spent some time with family. It was a short Christmas with them. We didn't stay that long because I wanted to get back and stay.
And we called on the way there, and we called on the way back.
Yeah, to check on them, to talk to the nurses, and they were doing good. So, ended up going back and got to spend the evening, Christmas evening, with them before heading out. So, but yeah, the nurses, thank God for those nurses. They're amazing.
They were amazing.
They are amazing. I helped. I don't know if I got in their way, but I helped. Because, of course, every single time you have to take, you know, temperature, you have to change diaper, you know, things like that. And then they got into eventually clothes, if you change clothes.
We tried to be very hands-on.
Yeah.
With everything that they did there. Like, instead of the nurses doing it, we wanted to do it. We wanted to learn. So, which was great because we got basically 30 days worth of training before we got sent home.
Right.
We knew what to do when, you know, what
and
happens
really
when the baby stops breathing.
Yeah.
Like, because they would do that as a preemie.
Right.
It's not uncommon for them to just kind of and not breathe. Well, what do? You know, and having been there, constantly tending the alarms and things like that, we knew what to do. When they came home, they weren't on monitors or anything like that.
And then they got them on a schedule, so that was really nice too. That they, you know, got started.
And they even worked with us as to what kind of schedule we wanted them on. And,
Yeah. So
learning how the different kinds of feedings, gavage feedings, and then once they actually started going to a bottle and things like that, it was interesting.
It was very interesting, but then we got him home, and I just hated leaving Logan. That was awful.
That tore us up.
We could take 2, but we couldn't take the 3rd. That was really sad. But we did. I think it was a day to day and a half. I don't think it was into 2 days later, was it, that we got him?
It was a full 24 hours at least after we went home before we went back to pick up Logan. But
yeah. So, but I remember that day because Tony, she was there with Logan, and she she had him set up for some reason, and I looked, and I had never really paid attention to it much before, but he had a red little dot on his arm. And I said something to Mike, and he said, no, you know, I don't think that there was anything. I think it was like fuzz or something. So we didn't even talk about it until we got him home. But I distinctly saw this red dot when Tony was holding him up. So I was just like, what is that? You know? So she ended up telling Logan goodbye, and that was sad for me because I'm sure these nurses, you know, especially because the boys have been in there for 30 days. Logan had been, you know, a couple more than that.
You know, I know they're not supposed to get attached.
Right, but how can you not? But, you know, that's...
Yeah, they make such a big investment in those kids' lives.
Right, and she, of course, you know, had to tell them goodbye, and that was emotional for me to watch, you know. So we got him home, and later, I think it was later on that evening or something, I had started to change him, and I saw, and there was a real red dot, and it was a little, they call it a strawberry. Is what they call it, and it's a little raised bump, but it was in a shape of a heart.
Yes.
So that was the sweetest thing, and from then on, people knew it. And so when they saw Logan and Jason together, they would, which one, who's who? Like, Logan had the strawberry, Jason didn't. So that was a tell too. But you kind of had to pull the whole sleeve down. You know, if you have long sleeves on, it's hard to get to, but. So that was a tell for people. They thought, you know, oh, we could just look at that. So, but yeah, so we got him home and was thankful that everything went well. So, yeah.
And then the marathon started.
Yeah. And that's for another video. And cut.
And cut?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for tuning in and watching this. If you made it this far, if not, we completely understand.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But we just wanted to kind of share a little bit with everybody what exactly we've gone through. If you happen to be one of those people who are expecting triplets or have young triplets or anything like that,
you can comment and we'll comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to comment.
Ask questions.
We're always willing and able to help anybody that is going through this.
And we'll probably do more videos, of course, about the boys, especially the first year and things like that. We'll get into more details and things. But if you have questions or want to comment, say how horrible we are at this right here, because this is weird, by all means, go ahead.
Right.
But yeah, don't forget to like and have anybody else subscribe. And you subscribe.
Now, to explain a little bit about this channel, I definitely would never have made a YouTube channel, and I don't think you probably would have either.
No.
So who's driving this channel? That would be the triplets.
Yeah, they're all excited.
They have been, well, for years, been pushing, Dad, we need to start a YouTube channel. Dad, we need to start a YouTube channel. I'm like, nobody's going to watch anything that has to do with...
Who wants to watch our crazy life?
We're not really that interesting of people. So,
gee, thanks, talk for yourself there. No, just kidding.
No, I mean, I guess this is all we've ever known. So, therefore, this is what we...
Sorry.
yeah, we'll get into what that is later on
Yes.
in another video
Right,
as well.
exactly.
So, but yeah, it's been an interesting ride so far.
Yes, it has.
We've learned a lot. There's been a lot of tears shed, a lot of happy times.
Yes.
Just like it is in everybody's life.
Right.
But fortunately, we don't know any different since the boys are all we have. Not looking for any more, but
Higher risk for more now.
Yes.
Because it was natural. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So definitely not looking for any more, but at the same time, we enjoy our life,
Yes.
and we try to spend every moment we can with the boys doing things that they enjoy and things we enjoy, and this is one of the things that they wanted to do. So we said, okay, fine, we'll try it, see how it goes. And hey, if nobody likes and subscribes, then
we'll just have
I
it
guess
for later.
Guess we can always go back and look at them later on. So anyway, thank you guys if you did watch all this. If not, I can't blame you.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
But have a wonderful day. We'll be adding some new videos here very soon. Probably detailing more about this. So
Yes.
anyway, take care.
Yes.
God bless. And
We will see you
else?
soon.
All right. See ya.